Hey guys, welcome to La Bóveda Podcast. My name is Joe, and this is the House of Survival Horror. And today we are happy. Today we have Vincent with us here, developer for HeartWorm. So I was, I was a lot. I had a lot of emotions going in and out when I found out that the game was finally coming out. And we've been talking about this in La Bóveda for a while because there are games out there that they just don't scare us. You know what I mean? It's like they follow you,
Mhm.
like not with cheap jump scares, not trying to take anything away from it and any genre in particular, but with
Yeah.
ideas, memories, emotions, stuff that lingers long after we turn the screen off. And
Mhm.
today in here we gotta dive, into a title that's shudder with meters of nostalgia and echoes of that place we call the golden age of survival horror, but with a heart that is infected with loss, memory, and impossible. It's an impossible wish to see to those we've lost again. And that I came up with
Mhm.
this because I think it's very appealing to the topics that we're going to be touching tonight.
Mhm.
I think I don't know. I've been talking with a lot of people about it, and Heartworm is not just a love letter to Resident Evil and Silent Hill. That's what the most you've been seeing there, here, and there. I think it's an
Yeah, yeah.
existential journey, like armed with nothing but a camera and a burning question. How far are you willing to go to find the truth and reunite with your loved ones?
Mhm.
With that said, welcome to La Bóveda, Vincent.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. Um, I think I always say let's start from the beginning. I wanna
Mhm.
explore a little bit of the influences and your philosophy behind the design that
Sure.
pulls the shadows with Heartworm. So
Mhm.
Heartworm explores grief, right, memory, and that yearning to reconnect with those we've lost.
Yeah.
What personal reflections, whether they were intentional or maybe subconscious, inspire Sam's obsessive journey to that haunted house on the other side?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it started out, I mean, I never thought that it was gonna turn out to be a full-fledged thing in the first place. So it was kinda just like a means for me to kinda try and work through some stuff that I had felt or like
Yeah.
I was dealing with at the time. When I started it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Sam's journey in the game mirrors kind of like my personal journey in real life. Not exactly, and I exaggerate in some places because it is a game
Yeah.
after all. But a lot of the story, like I am like drawing from personal experience. I think everybody struggles with death and
Yeah.
how we deal with it in different ways um, so that, like, yeah, the story of Sam and Heartworm was kind of a way to, yeah, just like express a way that I had felt, or like a way that I had kind of gone through that journey myself. So
It feels like it's a powerful metaphor. I think that's the description that I came up with. So
yeah,
do you how do you arrive at it? Like, I know you said that it's from personal experience, but is
yeah,
there any emotional symbolism that maybe you wanted to tie in there, or does it carry something like valuable to you? Maybe.
yeah. I mean, I think like a lot of the game has like these surreal like visual elements, and I think something I've been thinking about recently and like while I was working on the game, just like sometimes it's really hard to like express how you're feeling when you're dealing with grief and these things, and like the emotions related to it. And so while I was making it and like planning everything, I just was trying to like abstractly think like what does grief look like visually, like if I had to like make something, like to visually represent how I felt at that moment, like what would it look like. And I think that's like a
Yeah,
big inspiration for a lot of the areas and set pieces in the game.
they
Um,
were they were great. There's this
Thank you.
yeah, there's this area that it touched me very very close, and it's you go down the stairs the first time,
Mhm.
and you're getting chased, right? You run to that door.
Mhm.
It felt like there's no going back now. Like when you start that journey to
Yeah.
find, maybe solace within that grief, or accept some stuff. I was raised by my grandfather, and when he
Mhm.
passed, I felt like I was like, completely left alone, and nothing else mattered and whatnot. And even though I was already married and I had a kid and whatnot, I just isolated myself into that small capsule, right? And
Yeah.
so the game has this, like, if the guys that are watching the streams, that I just stop and I read the
Yeah.
notes, and the notes, they're poking into this, old wounds, and I'm like, wow, that's deep,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
following on that, the game world feels like a fever dream. It's
Yeah.
memory, it's trauma, it's longing blending with supernatural horror, which I loved.
Yeah.
How much is an internal emotional landscape versus external, like otherworldly forces? Because I try to I try to I always try to understand the games that I'm playing. It's part of what I do. I know it's in my nature, like, to analyze all this stuff. You and I both know that survival horror never puts anything in there just because. There's always
Yeah.
something. There's meaning behind it.
Right. Yeah.
I would like to ask you about the archive. That
Sure.
that place it felt special, right? What
Mhm.
was your reasoning behind putting that in there? What's the purpose of the archive? And this is just a question that my community helped me build for you. So
Yeah. So part of it, like, was to structure the game and kind of um with what you had just kind of talked about in mind, where like in that very beginning sequence when you go through that door, there is kind of no going back. That's like also kind of the structure of the archive and like the chapters of the game. Like, you start, you can go to the neighborhood, but once you're done there, you can't come back. And that was like kind of intentional. Like, and for each chapter, like you go through, you can't come back to or you can't go back to where you just were. And it kind of was like, all you were like almost on the nose with like how I was thinking about it in terms of like going through the process
okay.
of like dealing with what Sam is dealing with. Um, but the idea for the archive in general is that it's kind of this place that stores all memory and for the people who enter this place. So it's like for Sam, it's specific to her because she is there in that moment. But for someone else, it might be completely different, basically. And that's like it's like I think there's a lot of parallels you could draw to Silent Hill there, where like it's
Yeah.
specific to the person that is there, but it's the structure is the same. It's more the contents that are different, and how they present themselves, but they also blend together, as some of the journals you find
Mhm.
are not necessarily from they're from someone else who has been there. And um yeah, so that's like the very basis of the game started with the idea for the archive, which was like, what if there was a place that you could go to that like just had all of your memories accessible, and that's kind of how I started with that, I guess.
I I felt that when there's a part in the game that you're in that gate and you try to open it, it's strange somehow that there's like a lot of books in there, but I can't get through. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something you remember, but it gave me that feeling that when I realized where I was, it reminded me the
Yeah.
feeling when I watched Interstellar for the first time. And I don't know if you
Oh,
remember
sure.
that scene at the
Yeah.
end with the book, right? Not because of the
Yeah.
library or look, it's just the topic behind it. Like your
Yeah.
memories and
Yeah.
everything is written, and you can go back and watch your life on the back. So it was kind of
Right.
like this. I want to do this because my guys, the guys from the community and the audience watching. I love when games have deep meaning like this, that you can actually go in and then
Yeah.
actually enjoy it from this perspective, because I think that's what made those games back in the day so great. Um,
Yeah.
did you intend Heartworm to push players to ask themselves, how far would I go to find closure or to be united with somebody?
Yeah, I think in some ways I wanted, like I think I was really torn because there's I when I think of like the game I wanted to make, or like when I think of the games that I like Resident Evil and all of that, like Resident Evil doesn't really ask like hard hitting questions. I would say, it's pretty straightforward. But I still love it, obviously. But and I didn't want to, like it's hard to like I don't want to come off too strong or whatever and act, like I don't want to tell anyone how to feel. I was really worried about that. Like,
Yeah.
like you would feel this way or something. Like, it's different for everybody. So I wanted to keep the story kind of like intentionally vague to a certain extent, so that there was space to maybe, feel the way you might feel or ask yourself questions that come up while you're playing. Um, and yeah, and it's hard for me because like I've been in it for so long, but I feel like with some of the responses that I've seen, it has been successful to some degree in
Yeah.
getting people to ask those questions. So yeah, I feel like it definitely was intentional, and I think it's at least somewhat successful in coming across that way.
Oh man,
So
it's been more than successful. I can tell you that. I've
that's
spoken with a lot of people, and they're like, everybody's so happy with the game. And
yeah,
I've seen threads in the, I call it the dark corners of the internet, when people just post like negative
yeah,
stuff all the time. And I've seen threads go
yeah,
from being super negative before the game came out, and the same people that were posting negative stuff turn completely to the other side now that they played the game. And that is something that you
yeah,
don't see every day. So congrats on that.
yeah. I'll happily take that. That's I know it's not for everybody, but like, yeah, it has seemed like overall people seem to be resonating with it. So
Yeah. So talk to me about Sam. Like, what's her story behind the character creation, and what influenced her? You creating her.
um yeah, she's kind of like a combination of a lot of just people that I know and myself, and um like visually I had like a very she was like the first thing that really got created for the game. Like I kind of like I had a lot of ideas about where I wanted to go with like how it would look and everything, but her model is so old compared to like so many other parts of the game. I just like I had a very specific style in mind that I wanted to go for. Um, kind of to like line up with the other like protagonists of
Yeah.
that era. So visually that was like established pretty early. But then also as a character, just like yeah, a lot of just kind of like taking bits and pieces of everyone I know, and like trying to craft a character that felt kind of relatable, and and also like give her this like not too in-depth story of like why she's going, but something that like people can connect to and understand, and I mean, and from that I drew a lot of personal experiences too. Like her reasoning is not very different from like my reasoning for trying to like work through grief at a point in my life. So she's kind of a pretty strong reflection of myself in her design, I
That's
guess.
interesting, because the first thing that I always say, like, you have to play a game the first 20 minutes, right? And if
Mhm.
the game didn't it doesn't capture you in those first 20 minutes, then you may have a problem. And
Yeah.
That was instantaneous with HeartWorm. That first line when you get out of the
Yeah.
car and she starts like talking, the cadence of the tone and what she
Yeah.
was talking about, I was like, I remember I stopped the game, took out my glasses, look at the camera, and said, "Guys, we're in. We're
Yeah.
invested. We're in this now. There's no going back."
Yeah.
So
That's good.
what
That's
I
awesome.
what I loved about it is like the game fully embraces that late '90s survival horror vibe. It has fixed camera angles if you choose. Well, the game has it. Optional tank
Yeah.
controls. It has that PS1 style textures and classic inventory menus. So for the audience watching, if you haven't played the game, this game gives you the option to choose between the classic tank controls and the over-the-shoulder more modern one, which at the same time you have the classic aim burst from the early games versus a more modern approach. And it does the same for the graphics too. So you can choose pixelated or a more modern approach, more clean. And this is so geniusly thought because more and more games are taking this approach now, which I think it's perfect to reach like newer audiences to experience these great stories. I was talking with, well, I've talked with a lot of devs lately, and they all agree that at some point survival horror was being carried by the indie game scene, right? There's a lot of great stories out there, and one of the constant things that people complain was about, oh, I don't like tank controls, or I don't like, which in my opinion, like I come from that old school background. I was like that's what makes it great. I remember when I was even my guys watching me play, I was, "Guys, I'm gonna let you this in your hands," and they're like, "Well, how do you feel more comfortable?" I'm like, "Look at the camera right here, baby. I'm just turning around with the camera," and they're like, "Well, but if you choose the other one, you can get like that close up," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll play that later. I just want this." So it's good that you have those options. So
Yeah.
now that is what I think, right? What was your intention with those options?
Yeah, I mean, I think like pretty much it's very close to what you said. Like I just wanted to like I also, I grew up on the OG like Resident Evil 1. That was like I played that when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have played it then, but I but I did, and I played it over and over and over and over. Like I'm so used to tank controls that like it doesn't even, like, people who are like, "Oh, I can't play tank controls." I'm like, I don't get it, because I just it's like second nature to me. Like, so I never use modern controls. It's not. I actually think it's more confusing, because then you end up in those situations where you like switch camera angles and you like turn back accidentally and like all that, like, and tank is perfect for the fixed camera angles, and I had like from the jump, I was like, I'm going to do fixed camera angles. Like, I think it's just such a lost art. So I just wanted to make sure that I had, a good number of options for people to enjoy it the way that is most comfortable for them. And it's still there's no perfect way, really. Like, I thought about doing like a true third person, like with RE4 style, where you're just always in third person. But I didn't end up doing that, because I just feel like it takes away, if you never have the fixed
That's what I was
cameras, then, like, it's kind of a whole different game.
That's what I was gonna tell.
So I drew that's
It's one of those things where the fixed camera goes in hand in hand with the tank controls, and it enriches a lot the horror experience. Because it's like you remember. I mean, if you kind of think about it, just think about Resident Evil 3 Nemesis without this type of controls. Like, it wouldn't have you like this. Like, what do I do? What do I do? And the camera's there fixed, and there's a blind spot where you're trying to figure out what's happening, and that adds to the tension of the game. And in these kind of games, the tension is key, because you're building that tension. That's why we did an episode of La Autopsia in terror versus horror. What's the difference, right? And you need to build up that tension, and then you explode it, and you can explode it in so many different ways. You can explode it with questions. You can, and we have seen games like going from that tension build up with the music and everything on the soundscape, like Resident Evil on the angles, to just build it with silence, like Silent Hill used to do. And there's like 10 doors, and you open 10 doors and just one of them had something, and when you thought it had something, you go in and it was just something you needed to continue. It's I
Yeah.
think there's such beauty in that design that I don't know, there's something about it. I think I'm not the only one, because if I've been reading a lot. Everywhere I go, I read
Yeah.
what people write, and sometimes they don't even notice they're writing stuff. And in the back of my mind, in my back burner, I'm like, yeah, I know what that is. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
occasionally in the game, you can recall places that are I like to call them like love letters to other games, like Resident Evil and
Yeah.
even Silent Hill. For example,
Yeah.
talking about Resident Evil, there's a part that was reminiscent of the mansion stairs, and then the safe room was located on the same door. That blew my cap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, this is so good, but it looks different at the same time. I know this place, and then I went upstairs and it was completely different, and I'm like, okay, I'm lost.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
another thing that I saw in there. It's from Silent Hill, right? When you go into that fractured road in the neighborhood, that was a perfect
Oh, yeah.
recalling to the Silent Hill 1, just broken down roads in that design. Like,
Yeah.
me and my
Yeah.
community talk about it, and they all agree that
Yeah.
even with all these little pieces put in here and there, these love letters, this game still does its own thing, which is great, and you don't get that every day again. It feels fresh. So, what was the greatest challenge, and and maybe joy in recreating that area while bringing your own voice? Because it makes it fresh. It feels fresh, and that's what's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you think that. I think it's hard to balance when you're trying to like make an homage or a reference to something. Um, and like I've noticed, I'm trying not to get too into like the reviews and stuff. I'm trying
Yeah.
to kind of just like keep my eyes off of it. But some people think that like I don't know, like I didn't I didn't think people would notice or something that I used the Spencer Mansion stairwell. Like I'm trying to I'm like I everyone that plays this game is gonna know exactly what that is. Like it's so I guess like that's the hard part is like I didn't know how far to go. It's like for some people it's like they were like, oh, this is a really cool like homage or reference or whatever. And like you said, the roads in Silent Hill. Because to me, like I love that because when you're walking around Silent Hill, it's like, oh, everything is like kind of normal, but kind of not. And then you get to the end of the road, and you're like, okay, it's actually really not normal right now.
That's
Like
definitely not
like,
normal.
It's just like one of those little things. Yeah. And it's just like a perfect way to kind of cement the surreal nature of the area. And like I could have put a pile of cars or something like or whatever, but like it doesn't thematically it doesn't fit as much as like the that. So it was that just felt like a great spot to use that that reference. And then the stairwell one, that was also like I needed a way to like get people to realize where the save room was.
Yeah.
And that's where I was like, oh, like people will see
Memory,
this and they will know that there is a save room there. Like, and maybe not everyone will, but the people who do will, and that will help them, hopefully like, because that area can get kind of out of hand. It's very like interconnected and there's a lot of ways you can go. So yeah, so it's a tough balance, I'll say. And I didn't know until it came out how people would feel. And it seems like mostly people are happy with it, but some people think whatever. But that
you can't make everyone happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I tried my best. I don't know.
You know that I love the Fracture Road because I am a huge fan. I consider myself, and this is because the community has. My guys are always telling me like, Joe, you possess so much knowledge about gaming history towards this kind of games that it's sometimes it's a little bit weird. So they start calling me like you're like a gaming historian, and I'm like, well, I like that term because that's what I've tried to build. I that's why it's called La Bóveda, because it started like a vault. I start buying old games and storing them and playing them, and it's like a game preservation kind of initiative. So when I saw the Silent Hill one, Silent Hill is very special for me because I never finished Silent Hill as a kid. I couldn't. I just finished. I think I was like maybe 13 years old when I finished it, and
Yeah.
that Fracture Road, people think that they did that on purpose, and when you look the documentaries and you actually look back during development, they did what they could with what they had. So
Right.
even the buildings, if you take the fog away, they don't have roofs, and
Right.
so it's kind of like I saw it and I felt that like this is a homage, but at the same time it's paying respect to those people, how they built this franchise that it's a monster nowadays, the same way that Capcom did with Resident Evil with what they
Yeah.
had. You know, that's why the
Right.
claustrophobic environments and everything, because the game design uses Metroidvania maps, but it was a different perspective.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I thought it was great. I thought it was just brilliant.
Cool.
So
That's awesome.
using the camera as a weapon recalls, at least for me, the Fatal Frame series a little bit, but also the idea of capturing memories, right? What inspired that choice, and how does it connect with the themes you maybe wanted to touch in the game?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've actually never played Fatal Frame, like any of them.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I know. Well, I tried playing the first one, and
Yeah,
I just like I don't know. I couldn't. It just didn't
it's
grab
different.
me.
Those games are
Yeah,
they have their own niche. I have an issue with, not an issue, but I it seems funny how survival horror as a genre now, people are reinventing the wheel or on how it
yeah,
is. And for some people, the Fatal Frame games and the Damsel in Distress, like Clock Tower 3, Haunting Ground, Rule of Rose, all of those go
yeah,
now closer to what survival horror is supposed to be, and they put like Resident Evil like later, and I'm like, this is crazy, because
yeah.
the term was actually made as a
Right.
marketing
From Resident Evil.
as a marketing description for Resident Evil. So in my
Yeah.
head, anything closer to Resident Evil should be first, and then
Right.
but it's but the Fatal Frame ones are very special because there's the mechanics and the game and everything surrounding it. It's completely different. To
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's. I think like I kind of wish I did play them before I made this, because I think a lot of people, like, the camera obviously evokes that mechanic in Fatal Frame, and I think some people had the expectation like it would be more like that, when really the camera is it's just a gun,
yep,
really.
yeah.
Like, it's not like, and in Fatal Frame it's it's more interactive. It's you like do more stuff with it. But I never really planned on doing that. I just kind of, I needed to give her a weapon.
Mhm.
Um, and I think thematically, the camera makes sense more than a pistol or something.
Yep.
It's like I just think it like you said, it kind of like, you know, not only did it need to be a weapon just for the sake of gameplay, but like having Sam be interested in photography and art in general is also kind of like one of the points of the game where, like, through grief, trying to also find purpose, which is like kind of explored in like the last chapter, through art. I feel like if for like people who do that, people who are creative, want to explore their emotions through their art,
Yep.
sometimes they can you can do that defensively, and it can help you, but also like it kind of is a weapon, because it I don't know. It can kind of. I guess maybe I'm not explaining it well, but like I feel like it can kind of go both ways, and like it can help you or it can hurt you. So like the fact that it's not this like overpowered thing that she has, but it can be used to defend herself. I just wanted it to. It just all kind of came together and felt like it fit, like, thematically. So yeah.
So another thing that I think it's a hallmark in this genre is the environmental storytelling, and I think in Heartworm that's one of the strengths. Using those visuals and space instead of direct exposition.
Yeah.
So was this I don't know, maybe let me see how I can put this. Was this like clarity to ambiguity maybe approach part of your vision from the start, or
Hmm.
did it just came up as you?
Yeah, I think like I wanted I wanted it to be pretty vague. I wanted the environment to evoke emotions and kind of help tell the story. And honestly, I think like towards the end, we kind of got nervous about that because I was like, I don't know, like that. I like that, and I like you saying that. As someone who I know like really appreciates this genre, like I know that like you can appreciate that, and like other people can, but I feel like some people that just doesn't work for them. So I
Yeah.
kind of like I feel like I started to kind of like lean in the direction of like explaining a little bit more, like explicitly. Um, and but yeah, I mean like from the beginning, like I think that the biggest strengths of the game, and I just like from the jump, I knew that this was like the way it was going to be based on the feedback we'd gotten, was like the atmosphere is probably the strongest part of the game.
Yeah.
If I'm being like objective about like like all of the aspects of it, I think the atmosphere is the strongest. So I really wanted to lean into that. And I I have to shout out Michael, who is
Yeah.
the environment artist that I picked up after we got a publisher, because he like I would start and like do stuff, and then I'd be like, Michael, make it look 8,000 times better than what I did, and he would always do it, and he absolutely killed it when it came down to the end here. So yeah, but being able like that was definitely intentional, is like putting a lot of detail uh, into into the environmental design for sure.
It was great. Where I just I just considered that it was so good how you positioned the notes, and some of
Mhm.
them were wrote in prose, and then you have them in these special places. I remember one that really caught like the design of as I was going through that room. It's when you reach the house and you're going to her room. That
Mhm.
that like the whole bridge made out of wood, and then you can see like the neighborhood from a top, and the whole thing.
Yeah.
That whole aesthetic, and then you go into the room and there was like other things in there. It was
Yeah.
very eye candy kind of thing for people that
Yeah.
love psychological horror. So because there was
Yeah.
so much being told to you without saying a
Yeah.
word, that I
Right.
it was all great. So the pacing of the game, it's often more tension than like outright like horror like in your face. So it creates a
Yeah.
melancholic dread. Can you talk about the audio? Let's go there. And the
Sure.
environment and design choices that build that emotional tension rather than relying on jump scares. I think, and I'm just gonna let you go with it, but I think the soundtrack
Yeah.
of this game is so good. The
Thank you.
music from the safe room, brother, that
Yeah.
stick to me even when I was working the next day. I was just hearing that piano thing. I was at work hearing the
Yeah.
piano, and that's something you don't get very often, also. So
Yeah.
just try to explain like how that audio environment design choice came to be, and what was your approach to make these great soundscapes.
Yeah, I from the beginning, like even when I knew I could bring other people on, like I really wanted to do as much of the audio myself as I could, just because I had like a very strong idea of like what I wanted it to sound like. I didn't know what that was at the time, but I had like yeah, I don't know, I had the vision of like what I wanted it to be. And so a lot of it was well, I think one thing is like I definitely wanted to like balance the silence and the use of audio, because I feel like that's, like you said in Silent Hill, like one of the strengths of that game is the use of silence as
Yeah.
a tool for building tension too. Because it's not, yeah, it's like you can put music in every room, and even sometimes I feel like I there are times where I could have pulled back, but I tried to like actively be like, okay, like is this going to make this scene better if it has music or something, like just be really like active in thinking about how the soundscape of a scene affects what it feels like when you're inside of it. And yeah, it was hard. I probably have like, I don't know, I probably wrote like 300 songs or something trying to like
imagine.
get what I think it ended up there's like 70 or something in the game. So there's just so much like throwaway that it just like I tried and tried and tried and like I kind of just brute forced it until I was happy. The save room is like the third save room theme, and honestly, like I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I was like, yeah, I that one I did a good job with that one because
Bro.
I did not. It's so hard. There's so
Bro,
many good save room
as
themes.
soon as you walk in, the first thing you see is the cigarette lit with the smoke,
Yeah,
and then the piano starts.
yeah,
Boom. And I was like,
yeah. Yeah.
I'm
You
safe.
know,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
safe. Yep.
Yeah,
Safe room.
that's exactly it. I was trying so hard to get that to feel that way before you knew what it was. Like that's what I wanted. Is like just I wanted it so that the tune would just like clue you in. Like this is the spot that you want to be
Yeah.
when where you're gonna do your item stuff, whatever, save, whatever. So I was very proud of that. Yeah, and I'm really happy with how that turned out, and the rest of the soundtrack. I think it came out pretty well considering. Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult, but yeah, I'm I think just like trying and trying and trying until it felt right
I mean,
was the right approach.
300 songs.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a lot. It's,
yeah,
but it was,
yeah.
at the
It's
end, you managed to create a great soundscape because that's one of the strengths of this game. Also, it's like there's a lot of discussion out there about people using like real approach to art, people that use AI and whatnot. Out of the bat, you can tell like this was somebody work on this. This is
oh yeah,
so good that, and you can feel it too. Like there's something with the AI stuff that you notice in if you're like into this thing and you're like constantly consuming video games and stuff, you'll know.
yeah, yeah. No,
I th-
you can tell.
yeah.
Yeah,
So the game offers multiple endings. Am I right?
yes,
Classic puzzles, like and story fragments hidden in the environment, like notes, scatter notes, and stuff. So, what guided your pacing and that narrative delivery? How do you build? What was your approach? Do you build everything like from the beginning in your head, like this is what I want to do, or maybe where you were developing, you said, well, maybe if I put this note in here, or I
I
it
think.
yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was just like just scrambling my mind because this is like out of curiosity because I was thought this is how all of this came to be, and then the next question is connected to this one, but it's like I try to put myself in not in the mind, but try to understand the mindset when the game was created, and that somehow makes me happy because I feel like I enjoy the game a lot more.
Yeah,
But I know from the old games that they did it as they went. It was not planned. It's
yeah,
like they're going, and it's like
right.
okay, it would make sense now if there's a snake up there that we would put this guy here and do this, and
Yeah,
that would connect with what we're trying to narrate, and they would start doing this ramification super crazy, and then at the end that you have this whole massive map with different doors and stuff.
yeah,
How what's your story?
yeah. This was probably the hardest part of making the game was really like planning out like what goes where and how it all like flows together. Because I had a really vague like map in my mind, but it wasn't like it wasn't very fleshed out. It was like, okay, this is gonna have like major beats basically, like this, then this, and everything in between I had no idea where it was going to go. Like
It
I
was
was like, I know
so
like
good.
stuff is going to happen, but yeah. So I guess I took the old school approach intentionally or otherwise, but yeah, I just kind of like there was a lot more, and we basically would just like keep playing through, trying to think about it from the perspective of a player, and then moving or removing things until it felt right. And I'm sure, like, I still feel like there's stuff I could have done a lot better. Obviously, like in all areas, I
It's
definitely have learned
continuous
a lot.
improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, but all I can do is do better next time. But that was probably the hardest part of the whole process, was like trying to figure out the pacing and everything. It's very I I have a lot more respect for the people who did it way back then, when there wasn't, because like I'm thinking
The
back, like,
tools.
okay, like
Yeah.
how did Resident Evil do this?
Yeah.
They were doing it and they didn't have like how did X do it, because they were doing it for the first time. Like, there's other stuff they could have drawn inspiration from, but they like it was very um like you said, I mean, even like, yeah, thinking about it like a Metroidvania or something like that stuff it's so complicated to like try and plan out
Do it
from the
from scratch,
get-go.
bro. Do it from
Yeah.
scratch.
So it was difficult, but it was really just a lot of like trying and
Hmm.
changing and just iterating. So yeah.
I think the puzzle solving and the survival elements seem deeply connected to Sam's emotional journey. And each step forward, it feels like you're chasing that closure as much as completing the game, right?
Mhm.
And I said this question was tied to the first one. How do you strike that balance in between that gameplay challenge and the emotional resonance that you're telling? Like for me, I see it like, how do you manage to not get completely away to where you're trying to tell? Because I know that with
Yeah.
mounting this game altogether, it's like you can start having crazy ideas. Like, no, I don't think that's gonna fit in here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like I guess kind of like I said, like there were things that were in that got cut just because either they didn't flow or they didn't feel like they fit thematically. And that was another thing. It's like, because I could have just, like, if I was like, okay, I need a puzzle, like there are a lot of puzzles to pull from, but I wanted the puzzles to feel like they made sense in the context of either Sam's story or in in dealing with grief, or like something to do with the emotions that were trying to be evoked from the area that the puzzle is for, basically. Like, and it's yeah, it's really hard to, because it's hard enough to make a puzzle or a set of puzzles or something
Yeah.
that feel like they make sense in a game, or they're or they fit, but it's even harder to do it and also have them kind of feel connected to the story. And yeah, so that was also a lot of trial and error. There are a number of puzzles in the game that like are totally different than they were a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever, because I just like thought of a better way to do it, or like a better way to express it to the player, or whatever I was trying to express. Like it yeah, just a lot of trying and trying and trying and trying. So
I think when we talk about inspirations, you mentioned your personal experiences, right? But at
yeah.
the same time, I feel like, the game levels and the environments are incredibly interesting as well. I already mentioned that I can own it. I don't know if I didn't say it like this, but I can honestly say that Heartworm has one of the more unique settings of any survival horror game I've seen from this generation, and with certain areas feeling like something was inspired, at least from my take of view. I'm a horror fan as well from movies, and
Mhm.
I saw a little bit of Ringu in there when she was coming out of the TVs and the static, and
Yeah.
of course Silent Hill. And I mentioned something very rare when we started that said like it feels like a lucid dream, right?
Hmm.
Nightmare on Elm Street, maybe. And
Hmm.
even the when you're walking in the neighborhood, it gave me that Nightmare on Elm Street vibe. So it was kind of a
Yeah.
mix of different influences, at least that I saw in there. I saw a little bit of an element of something we exploring discovered very early in my life, which is a Hellraiser. The Imperfect Horror was there too.
Mhm.
Which will you say were your main inspirations to create this environment?
I mean, it definitely, like, you're on the nose with movies. Like, to me, like, I wasn't just thinking about video games when I was trying to like draw inspiration for this. I love horror movies, just movies in general, and um, I I like I was pulling from everywhere when I was like trying to think of how to like make this feel like it's like like inspired by but also its own thing. And I think what I noticed was the stuff that I like the most in the horror movies that I like are like the slightly off, like suburban vibes, and like you said, like Nightmare on Elm Street, or like I really like in that same vein, like the first Halloween
Oh yeah,
movie
great.
is like, it's not even really surreal, but it's like that all of those like shots of like the houses when
It's
like
like this
Michael Myers is
retro
in the
vibe, super.
background,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. So like a lot of that stuff, and then also like um just like some more modern stuff. Like I really like It Follows. That's
Yes,
like
great one.
visually that just like, yeah, that movie,
Yeah,
so many shots just like stick out in my mind constantly. They just like pop in and I'm like,
it
yeah,
sticks
that was
with you,
sick.
right?
Yeah. Um like Donnie Darko, I feel like that is another one that has like that same like vibe, like aesthetically. And also just like a lot of personal stuff. Like a lot of the environments in the neighborhood are straight just like places from like my neighborhood. Like
It's
I
great.
like
That's
I just
great.
was like, I took a picture, or I'd go on Google Maps or whatever, and I would just bring it in and start modeling it, and I'd be like, okay, this is, I'm gonna like rework this to be whatever. But then that like, all of that combined, I feel like is like how, um yeah, just like how it or like made it feel more cohesive, I guess, to me. So just like trying to get all of my inspiration together and express it to people. So
You mentioned before that it took nearly 5 years to complete.
yeah.
Looking back now at the full release, what changed the most and what core elements survived from those early builds?
Um yeah, I mean, it was the first demo that I put out in like 2020,
Yeah,
early 2020, I think, was it the house, the street where you enter in after you go through the TV and into the archive and then into the neighborhood for the first time. That street is almost exactly the same
yeah. It
but
feels
expanded from the first demo. And the house, Sam's house in that, or her grandparents' house in that scene, is the same house from way back when, but the inside is like totally different. And in the original demo, there was no combat. It was kind of more just like just ambiance, basically, like leading up to like whatever. But a lot of that, helped me figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of the game. Like I didn't have everything fleshed out at that point, but there were things that I did like. Like I had the movement and like the camera mechanics down. Um and I kind of had ideas for like how I wanted to lay out like that chapter, even though I didn't explore it a lot at the time. But like, yeah, a lot of the game has changed. It was a long time, and um, a lot of that time I was doing a bunch of other stuff too, so I could only work on it, when I had time or whatever. And also, like, I think my tastes changed over 5 years.
oh yeah,
Like
they do.
something I did when I started, I was like, why did I even do that in the first place? 5 years later, I'm like, but some of it's like, oh, it's too late now. I kind of have to just deal with it. But yeah, it was very. I think that's like the other really hard part about it was like the endurance of like dealing with all of that and like knowing what to keep and what to change since it's taken so long and like all of that. And
I can tell you that it was worth it, even though
yeah,
it was 5 years. The game is this is definitely a masterpiece, man. So
thank you.
we're getting to that final stretch here in La Boveda podcast, and you have seen previous interviews. We have this thing we call the Boveda quick fire questions, and then I made this funny statement like it's like nobody answers them quick. But that was the initial thought, but I think it's more like it's just like questions that we ask everybody. And the first one is going to be, what's your favorite survival horror game of all time?
It's Resident Evil 1 for the PlayStation 1, hands down, director's cut.
Bro, that
Like,
game.
it was
you guys watching, if you're I don't know, younger than 25, just imagine the hardest thing you could ever play, and jumping from the SNES or the Sega Genesis to this new generation with 3D graphics, and you were no clue where you were going or anything, and then you pop up the map and it was a Metroidvania. I was so confused. I was so confused, but it was so good. I'm right there with you, but I played 2 first.
Oh yeah.
Because
it
was weird, because in our house I share games. I've talked about this a million times, but I share games with my cousins, and the Resident Evil 1 was there, but for some reason I played it after I played 2. For me, my favorite is 2 because it was the first one. But Resident Evil 1 is just, I have the long box right here. That's a long box.
Oh, nice.
It's
that's my favorite copy.
Yeah, it stays, bro. Now, what's your favorite game soundtrack of all time? It's a hard one.
This is. I'm not going to be so quick with this one. That's geez. Maybe I don't know if this is crazy. Maybe the Oblivion soundtrack. I probably listen to that the most. I don't know why, but it just like those songs, like everything on that soundtrack just like sticks with me. So yeah.
That's good. My pick is Silent Hill 2. That's one
that's probably a close.
Yeah.
That's a top 5.
It's a top 5. That guy, he did just an amazing job with that. The whole music, it's just bomb. So this is kind of like a complex question, but I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. But this is something that I started asking, I think maybe 4 interviews back now. What's your take, or what's your perspective or point of view on survival horror? And let me build on that. Like, do you feel survival horror games should be just named when they are closer to the core of what made the genre? Or do you support that idea of the genre moving forward and taking bits and pieces from other genres and evolve into something like normal stuff do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of biased because I don't know. I guess actually I know there are a lot of people who would probably say my game is not a survival horror game.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fine. Like, people can think whatever they want, but I think that I don't love the idea, and this goes for anything like this, music or movies or games. I don't love the idea of strict genre requirements. Yeah, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. I think it's more like we call these things by their genres so that we can use our language to represent just like ideas to other people. It doesn't mean it has to fit the strict list of requirements that some of the things in that genre hit.
Yeah.
It's just a good explanation. It just drives me a little crazy sometimes how like strict people are about it. Like, for me, it didn't have.
For me, it's just a simple stuff, man. It's like I mentioned before. Like, there's this term was created for this, and then it became a genre, right? So in my mind,
Yeah.
anything closer to that is maybe what you would call like, oh, this is the closest you can get to survival horror. But at the same time, there are games that I've mentioned here, and that's what I did in the video we were talking about before we started recording. It's for me, it's that sensation that you're not in control, and you're like going in
Yeah.
there, and it does
Yeah.
have its hallmarks, back in the day, like, inventory
Yeah.
control, those claustrophobic environments. There's a compelling story being told, even if it's through the environment, scatter notes or videos, or because it ranges, it changed and evolved through time. And then, of course, Silent Hill gave birth to that psychological part of it, and but then Resident
Yeah.
Evil capitalized on it and brought it. We have psychological horror within Resident Evil in some of the installments. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, for me, it's something that it's changing, and whatever I can play that makes me feel that it comes from that root, I immediately in my mind say, okay, I need to play this game. I enjoy it. I'm gonna keep it. And I think the
Yeah.
perfect example is Alan Wake. I love
Yeah.
Alan Wake. But Alan Wake,
Yeah.
by definition, if you go, it has elements of survival horror, but it is not a survival horror game.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, I'm completely there with you, man. So,
Yeah.
man, I think in Heartworm, the monsters may fade and the rooms may be empty and the camera may stop flashing, even though like it's so genius how you use the flash to illuminate the dark rooms. And Vincent, you reminded us that true horror isn't just a scream in the dark or a jump scare. It's that whisper in our memory that refuses to leave. And I got taught that by Silent Hill. It's from grief to nostalgia, from fear of what's ahead, maybe, to the longing of what's gone. This game proves that survival horror is more than a genre. It's a mirror, yeah, we there to look into. And Capita, which is the friend that I do La Autopsia with, he always talks about how artists use their craft to put meters to look at yourself, right? And ask yourself like questions like this, existential questions, and how do you manage with super strong emotions. So to everyone listening and maybe looking at the video, if you haven't tried Heartworm, do it. Here in La Bóveda, we guard the things that are good and the things that haunt us. So Vincent, thanks a lot for your art, brother. And if there's anything you want to tell the audience, the microphone is yours.
Just thank you so much for having me, and thank you to anyone who's listening and has played the game or is thinking about playing the game. And yeah, I really appreciate all the support. So
Thanks for your time, Vincent. Guys, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, go down there and subscribe. I'm going to put the link to the Steam link so you can go. And if you get interested in Heartworm, I'm going to try to put some of my gameplay over here so you guys watch it. And as well, that's the handle for Vincent to follow maybe these and I hope future projects, because this was super good. So thanks for your time, guys. And this was La Bóveda. Thanks for being here.